Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and this is set number 71834, Zane's Ultra Combiner Mech from our very first Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 3 wave. This set contains 1,187 pieces, 6 minifigures, and will retail for $99.99 in the US when it officially releases on January 1st, 2025. This set was gifted to me early for review by the LEGO Group through the LEGO Ambassador Network, but all opinions expressed in this video are entirely my own. I'm doing early reviews of all of the January 2025 Ninjago sets right now. This is my very first one, but there should be more coming later today and throughout the week. So make sure to let me know in the comments which set do you want to see an early review on next. Also make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. It does a ton to help support me in the channel and also helps YouTube to show you my videos more often, so that way you won't miss any of the new reviews as I release them. But now, with all of that being said, let's get into the review. Here's the build of Zane's Ultra Combiner Mech, and wow, this set is amazing. I actually got to see this set in person a few months ago when I went to Denmark for LEGO's Fan Media Days, and I talked to the designers. I did a full interview with them. That video is actually already up right now on my channel. There's a few details about the show, which I'm probably not going to mention in this video, but you can go check that one out if you're interested. In this video, though, I'm just going to be evaluating this set for what it is, and what it is really, really cool. So this is the second ever, Ultra Combiner Mech we've gotten from Ninjago. We had the first one in Ninjago Core in 2021 or 2022? No, 2022. And that set's really cool, don't get me wrong. I like that set a lot. In fact, I'll probably do a comparison video between this one and that one at some point. But this basically takes what that set was and improves upon it in pretty much every single possible aspect. I am so blown away by this. The combined model looks really good. Each of the individual models look really good. It's fun to play with, but it also looks nice on the shelf. It's stable, it's posable. First, I want to show you how the mech transforms, and honestly, the best way to do that is probably at my desk, outside of my light box. So let's move the camera real quick and do that. Alright, so I'm going to show you the more specific details of the transformation, all the connection points and everything once we get back to the light box, but first here I just want to show you the full transformation, how this entire thing comes apart and comes back together. So there's 4 different parts to the build. We have Zane himself in his new robot form, we have Riyu the dragon on the back, we have the jet, and we have the car. So let's get started. Around the back, this is where Riyu attaches. Very easy, just pull him out like this. Zane is right here at the front, pull him off like this. Then I can detach the torso, this is going to become the jet, and then this is the car. So for the car, I believe I have to turn the legs like that, and then move these wheels back like this, right? Okay, connect it together like this, move these down to be thrusters, move these up at the front, they are, okay, boom, that's the car done. The jet is probably the most complex one because you have to take the hands off. It's the only one that involves taking apart anything. Let's see, this goes to the back, I believe. This is the thruster out the back. This is the pilot seat at the front. Now this can spin, oh wait, hold on, gotta turn these around, move it in like this. Okay, now this can spin, that's the jet. And then Riyu and Zane, I just sort of have to orient because they're already together. Just pull his legs down like this. There we go, that's Riyu done. And then we have Zane. We have to do like this. Actually, there's one more thing I have to do. Riyu holds Zane's sword on his back, so let me remove that. Give it to Zane. And there we go. We have all 4. Obviously, if we want to transform it back into the mech, we just do the reverse. So pull this apart, which is actually pretty strong down there. Rotate this up. Rotate the feet out. Move these wheels to the back. Down. Okay. There we go. This, I'm going to pull that off, rotate the shoulders around, rotate the other shoulder around, attach that to the top right here. Let's see, this one goes on this arm, I believe. Oops. This one goes on this arm. Okay. This gets reattached right here because it broke. Riyu gets attached to the back. Head moves down like this. Okay, and then Zane clips into the front, though I have to fold him up. Something like that, I think. I'm trying to do this backwards too, because I'm demonstrating for you guys. Let's see, how do I fit the foot in here? Okay, there we go. I finally got Zane on. I gotta practice this a little bit more. I promise I'll get better at it. It's really not that hard. And then the sword goes back onto the back with Riyu. And there we go. The mech is transformed back. Genuinely very fun to do, and it's quite stable as well. Everything stays together. The only part is this windshield right here. That fell off, and I did actually notice that when building to it, that part was a little bit loose just because it only has one clip to attach. So you gotta be a little careful with that, though. It's not the end of the world. Everything else, though, stays sturdy despite the fact that you're taking it apart, putting it back together, which is very impressive. Anyway, now let's move move back to the light box so we can take a look at the full mech as well as each individual part. Alright, we're back in the light box, so let's start at the legs and I'll make my way up. The feet are awesome. They use the small SCCBS armor piece in dark blue, which is an all new color for that part. If you guys follow the channel, of course, you guys probably know I love these pieces. I've wanted them in more colors, and in fact, I made a tweet about how I wanted these in blue specifically, and there we go, we finally have it in a shade of blue, dark blue. You get 2 of it in this set. But beyond just the part being exciting, I think the shaping here is really nice. It feels quite unique with like the 2 toes on the side, and the light in the center makes it feel very like high-tech and robotic, but it does a good job to like hold up the mech and keep it stable as well. The feet connect to the legs on a ball joint so you can move them around very easily. When it comes to balance, the wheels on the sides of the legs can touch the ground. They don't have to, depending on how you have the legs posed. But if you have them very vertical like this, you can actually have the mech roll along the ground to make it move, which is kind of fun. But if you go with a wider stance like this, the wheels no longer have to touch the ground. And instead, there's these little rubber pieces on the underside of the legs to help create some friction. So that way the entire build is still very sturdy when it's standing up. Now, the legs are the part of the build that turn into the car for Pixal, so as such, we have a little Samurai X logo right here. That's of course a sticker part, but I like that it's still themed around her character, even though the entire mech is like one solid thing. Unlike the previous combo mech, each section doesn't really have their own color scheme, it's all sort of just like one model. Despite that though, you can see this section is clearly intended for Pixel. That same sticker's on the other leg too, and then there's also stickers on the knees, which are both identical. They just add some more detail to this entire cockpit section, because yes, they can open up, this is where you place minifigures in when it's in car mode, but even when it's in mech mode, I can still place Pixel inside, she's just gonna be upside down. But yeah, she goes in like this, and then I can close it back up around her. The other leg opens up too, but it's not a seating area, it actually contains a little turret. I think this is meant to be a callback to the previous combo mech, because on one of the knees on that mech, there was a place for a Woobot to sit, and the Woobot also had like stud shooters on its head. This time around, it's not a Woobot, it's just the stud shooters, but it is in like that same exact spot. These don't work super well in mech mode because it's just shooting like upwards. They're definitely more meant for the car mode, which I'll show you in just a moment. The insides of the legs look great, like very smooth and textured, everything feels very intentional, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of the set. I love how it even feels complete right here. You can also see here's where the legs combine to like change into the car mode. You got 2 bars right here, 2 clips on the other leg, as well as a Technic axle hole and a Technic axle, but again, I'll show you the transformation after we get through the entire mech. Now, the back of the legs is definitely the weakest part of them because there is just a lot of anti-studs here, and anti-studs aren't the end of the world, but obviously they just don't look as nice as like the more textured pieces on the front and the sides. Obviously, I always prefer to see things a little more covered up, but I also think this is one of the better examples of anti-studs being used. We have these trans light blue pieces here to be like little lights, but then there's no like weird colors or anything throughout this build. I feel like I talk about this set a lot, but I think of the Ninjago mech from like a Monkey Kid in 2024. That was another mech that had a lot of anti-studs in the back, but that one was very colorful and looked so much worse than this one does. Which, by the way, it is wild to think about the fact that that set is $40 more than this one. So yeah, while I would have liked to maybe see things a little bit more covered up, as far as anti-studs go, this is about as good as they could look. The colors fit in nicely, and it's not like the end of the world, especially because this is the underside of the car mode, so you're not really going to see it when it's in that mode. For a build like as complex as this, I assume sacrifices have to be made somewhere, and I would much rather this kind of thing be on the back than be on like the inside of the legs. SCCBS small armor pieces in white at the top, which is not an uncommon color for that part, but hey, it's nice to get here. And now we move up to the waist and the torso. First up, the articulation of the legs as they connect to the waist. There's a little bit of movement here, right? You can move the legs out ever so slightly, and that's about it. But then, of course, there's also a pretty large, just like circular range of motion. The limit on that's pretty much just whenever other parts of the build get in the way. I like the shape on the waist. This is what turns into like the front of the car with the headlights and everything. But this like triangular shape that it has while it's in mech form creates a really nice transition from the body into the legs. Above that, we have the new large Zane form in the chest, and I think it was so smart the way this was done. Because of course he works on his own, and we'll take a look at him soon. But in the context of the mech, what's going on with him is very different. Of course, his head is still his head, and that can rotate while he is the mech. And that's pretty cool, because it's not often we can see the pilot of a LEGO mech do that. But then his arms and legs are no longer really arms and legs. They serve as sort of like armor for the chest. And at least in my opinion, that just works so well. It creates this really nice shape that makes the entire mech feel very bulky. But then when Zane separates, he feels very solid on his own, too. Coming to the shoulders, they use the General Grievous Starfighter cockpit piece in dark blue, which is a new color for that part. And I'm specifically pointing that out because the designer of this set, Lee Chi-wing, that's sort of like his signature. It's not in every single set that he's made, but in every year he's been designing sets, at least one of his sets has used this part. He's the same designer that did the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores, and that used this part on the tree in brown. Then in 2024, he did the Dragonstone Shrine, which used it in dark gray. So now he's got it here in this set in dark blue, and it fits in really well. It's like such a cool looking angle. It makes the mech feel very sleek and high-tech. back, I'm just so impressed such a specialized part has been used in so many different ways and looks great every single time. And I hope he continues doing this in future years, because it's just a very neat piece of consistency between his sets. Which, by the way, I think I have these shoulders on backwards, I'm just now realizing. It's a very slight difference between each side, but I just looked at official pictures and yeah, I think I had it wrong. So let me fix that real quick. There we go, I guess that shows that the front and back were designed to look nearly as good as each other, because I literally could not tell that I had it backwards. But yeah, the stud should be on top on the front. Anyway, yeah, the General Grievous Starfighter cockpit piece has 3 different stickers on it. These bottom ones have some paint detailing, and this one says 04 on it. I assume that's just referencing the fact that there's 4 different parts to this mech. Shoulder range of motion is very similar to the legs. You have like 2 notches you can move it down, probably 1 more if you remove Zane. But then of course also like a full 360 spin on the entire arm, assuming like Ryu's wings aren't in the way. There's an elbow joint here too, which gives you more options for posing. I will say, in terms of color scheme, this is the one part of the build that I'm not like in love with. Like I said earlier, I like the entire color scheme of this build is very consistent, so the black and gold just feels a little out of place to me, and I'm not entirely sure the intent behind it. I was thinking maybe it's for Cole because he comes in this set and he's the only ninja in the set that's not technically a part of the mech, but I would have preferred if they stuck with the dark blue, white, and red here. Because like there's a little bit of black in other parts of the build, right? You have the wheels, you have some of the joints, but I don't know, those all feel very naturally integrated. This just feels like a little bit of an odd color change from the shoulder to the arm. It's a very minor thing, but just something I noticed. And then here we have the hands, which are different parts for Sora's jet. So this is where Sora herself is supposed to sit. You can plop her in there and lean her back like this, close it back up around her. Just like the Samurai X stickers in the legs, I like how the stickers here are actually themed around Sora. We've got like this golden machinery right here, which is very similar to the stickers that we saw on like the Ninja Team combo vehicle, which was built by Sora. And then there's like these 3 whiskers right here, which we previously saw on Sora's transforming mech bike racer. The colors are a little bit different, but they also match this mech better, so it's neat to see that included. This entire arm section can spin a full 360 degrees, so there's like lots of room for posing that. I like the use of these blade pieces underneath because it makes it look very sleek when it's in jet form, but also serves as like a proper weapon for the mech to use while it's in its mech form. And you can see underneath there is an actual hand. There's 3 individual fingers and a thumb. No like Technic-Pin connection to actually hold on to anything, but if you want to try to have it hold on to a minifigure or something, you can absolutely try to do that. Though from my experience, gravity might get in the way. Nope, yeah, there he goes. The other hand attaches in exactly the same way. You can rotate it all the way around, and it's got the 3 fingers and the thumb underneath. This one, though, is the thruster when it's in jet form, so in mech form it sort of serves as like a blaster or something. You can imagine the mech using this to like shoot at an enemy. I think it works pretty well for both of those purposes. And then finally, we have my boy Ryu on the back. Now, I think it just looks really cool to have Ryu as the head of this mech. I actually made a custom Ryu mech earlier this year, which people loved, and I loved it too. I wasn't expecting it to be so good, but it turned out surprisingly like really nice looking. So it's kind of funny to see an official set do that too, because yeah, this looks equally as awesome. Because Zane is technically the pilot of this mech, but it looks like Ryu could be the pilot of this mech. And I just love the way his head sits up there. It looks amazing, and he can, like, look back and forth. His head connects on a mini ball joint, and it still has, like, the full range of motion. The face print here is exactly the same as the one in the Young Dragon Ryu set, and I get it, it's still supposed to be Ryu. He's slightly older now, but it makes sense to still use the same headpiece. But I will say, I would have liked if something was slightly different here, if there was, like, a little more detail in the eye, a few more scales, just to have a small difference between this head and the one in the previous version of Ryu, so that way we could even further demonstrate the fact that he's gotten older, he's grown up. He sort of like hugs the mech, right? He wraps around it, and he's got these giant wings, which look amazing when he's on the mech. They're much bigger than his previous ones. They're an all-new plastic molded piece, which is something we haven't seen too often in Ninjago. Dragons usually either have brick-built wings or like cloth or vinyl wings. This is very reminiscent of like classic Castle though, which is pretty neat. And especially like on the full mech, I think it fits Ryu really well. When Ryu's in this form, there's 2 studs in his back right here, and this is where you can actually attach Cole if you want. Because as I mentioned, Cole is not like officially part of this mech, but because Pixal has a seat in the legs, Zane of course is the torso, Sora has a seat in the arms. Cole is also in the set, so if you want him to have a seat, he can stand up right here on Ryu. So I think that's most of what I have to show you for the full mech. We'll do poses in just a moment, but now let's take this apart and take a look at each of the individual sections. So first I'm going to remove Ryu. He can be pulled off of the back like this. He has Technic Axle holes in his belly, and there's Technic Axles of course on the mech. So that's where he attaches. Zane at the front clips into the mech. You can see the bar connection on his back, the clip right there. He's probably the easiest to remove. Then the torso and the legs can separate right here. They each have a ball joint and a ball joint socket to connect to each other and still like stay very sturdy. And that's the 4 sections separated, ready to be transformed. Ryu is just in this really weird pose, so you have to adjust him to fix him. The legs can be moved down so he can like properly stand up. And as I showed earlier in the video, Zane's sword is right here, so I'm going to remove that. But here's the new version of Ryu, and I have very mixed feelings on this guy. On the one hand, I could tell this guy was absolutely designed for the mech, and I think for the purposes of incorporated with the mech, this is pretty darn good. But I assume this is going to be our only version of this age of Ryu, right? Because this is slightly older than the previous version, and it seems like we're just getting one newer, older Ryu every year, so this is the way they gave him to us this time around. And there's some things that he does that I really like. My favorite part is definitely the neck. I think it looks really cool when it's attached to the mech, but even like this, this on its own, it just makes a very nice shape. He feels a lot more organic, a lot more real than the previous version. Then the body's very white, which I think is okay. I assume that's meant to be like an armored saddle, so he's actually a part of the mech, right? That's not an actual part of his body. I think I would have preferred if it was more sand blue like the previous version of Riyu, but I'm fine with that for the purposes of incorporating him with the mech. There is also another place for a minifigure to sit while he's in this form. And of course there's also 2 clips, one to hold Zane's sword and another to hold any other accessory that you want. The tail's more accurate to the show this time around, which is nice to see. He's got like 2 tooth pieces at the back. And then there's the wing pieces, which I am so divided on, because yes, as I mentioned, this is an all-new part for this wave. I think it's really cool that they're plastic, like it's awesome to have a new plastic wing piece. There's a bar connection right here to attach a little finger, just like he had on a smaller version. But I do unfortunately feel like with the scale of this figure, this almost feels like too big of wings. Because aside from the wings and the neck area, this version of Ryu is actually not too much bigger than the previous version. Here they are side by side. Kind of hard to show them side by side because the wings get in the way. But yeah, they are very similar in scale. So it just feels like a very small change in terms of the body and then a massive change in terms of the wings. So I think as a standalone model, this one's not nearly as good as the previous version, but it's also important to keep in mind this is not a standalone model. This is built to incorporate with the mech, and the big wings especially look amazing on the mech. So I think they work well enough here. They connect with ball joints, so there's a good range of motion on them too, so you can tuck them away into the back if you want. They still end up looking huge on this little guy, but it makes his footprint a little bit smaller, which is nice. And then the legs are another thing that feel very small this time around. In fact, they're smaller than the legs in the previous Ryu, which for comparison look like this. I guess the feet come down a little bit further, but they're basically the same exact size, and the feet on the new one are actually smaller. Just like with the wings, I completely understand why this is. He needs to be able to wrap around the mech and sort of like hug it, so the legs have to be somewhat small. So in terms of the combo mech, this is perfect. It's everything it needs to be. But in terms of being what I assume is like our only new version of Ryu for this year, I would have liked a little bit more in terms of change between that version and this version. He's using a little bit more bright orange this time around though, which is cool. And now, are you guys ready for the most nitpicky, weirdest complaint I could ever have? I think the stickers for these scales are slightly misprinted, and I think that's going to be an issue with every copy of this set. So you attach these stickers to these slope pieces right here, right? And normally with LEGO stickers, there's a little bit of a border around the edge. And you can see on the top of the piece and the bottom of the piece, there is a pretty big border where there is no sticker. On the other 2 sides though, it gets really close to the edge, which LEGO doesn't normally do. Comparing that to the previous version of Ryu, which has stickers on the same exact parts, though slightly different stickers, that border is about the same width all the way around. That's because these pieces are slightly longer than they are wide, so they designed these stickers that way too. They're slightly longer this way than they are that way. And it seems like on this version of Ryu, they unfortunately got those dimensions swapped, so it's too long in this direction and not long enough in that direction. That is the smallest thing ever, and really not a big deal because the sticker still fits on the part, and I guess that's all that matters, but that is technically not printed the way it should be. Coming to Zane, here's how he is when he's attached to the mech, but you can unfold him like this, move his arms out like that, and there we go, this is our new version of Zane. Whoops, some of that was off camera. It's so wacky to get a brick-built Zane, because yeah, this isn't a Zane mech, this isn't like a little Zane drone, this is Zane. And that's why we don't have a Zane minifigure in this set, because we have this guy instead. I think they did a good job though, he feels very blocky and robot-like, but he also has some of these sharp edges, which I feel like matches the element of ice. His face is actually printed, which is nice to see, because even though it isn't a standard minifigure head, they still printed it. However, unfortunately, that did not carry over to all of the graphics on this figure. The arms have stickers, which I don't think is the end of the world, I think that's fine. This is Zane's symbol, which is the Ninjago letter Z, and then we just have like a mechanical panel right here. But this in the center looks like it's probably meant to be Zane's heart, and I would have really liked if that was printed. Obviously, everything being printed would be nice, but for a character like this, right? The heart is such an important thing, and especially on this rounded tile where it can be very difficult to place that correctly, I think if there's any time to print, that would be a good time to print. Especially because there's another very similar printed tile in another part of this set. Now this one does come in multiple sets, so it's not exclusive to the mech, but it is new for this wave, and honestly I would have much rather that be a stickered part than something as important as Zane's heart, though it's not the end of the world, the figure still looks good. Here's that sword that was attached to Ryu's back, you could just clip into his hand because he does still have clips for hands, and he's very fun to pose and just like make run around. Legs are on mini ball joints, so huge range of motion there, same thing with the feet, a little bit forward and back as well as a little bit side to side. Arms on mini ball joints too, and then you have like these hinges to be elbows. This guy feels very dynamic, and he's got a lot of personality for such a little build. As a very big Zane fan, I'm quite happy with him. Coming to Sora's jet, this was previously the torso of the build, and as I said earlier, yeah, this is the only one you actually have to take apart to transform. You pull the cockpit area off right here, attach it to the front right here with a mini ball joint. Same thing with this right here, you attach that to the back, again on a mini ball joint. Then you can spin the shoulders around, bend them inward, of course do that on both sides, move these black sections slightly up if you want, And there we go, that's the full build for Sora's jet. Not sure if I have much more to say about this one, because I feel like I've kind of already covered it. I do like the motion that it has, though, where this back section can spin. And that printed tile is very cool, I just wish it was on Zane instead. There's how it looks from underneath as well. And I like how the lower arm sections also serve as thrusters, just like this right here. It's solid, I like it. Finally, we have what's probably my favorite transformation, the legs being turned into Pixal's car. You start by locking the legs together at the bottom down here, turn the waist backwards like this, turn the wheels up like this, of course drop everything downward, bend the feet backwards like this, and there we go, now the legs have been fully transformed into Pixal's car. Just like with the jet, I feel like I've already mostly covered this, but I just want to take a moment to acknowledge how nice this really looks. I feel like this one, most of all, doesn't really feel like it's a part of a combo mech, like this could be its own standalone vehicle, and I think it's so impressive like how all the transformation is tucked away. This still feels so detailed even when it's in its car form. We do gain access to some additional stickers that were somewhat hidden by the wheels before, just like metallic silver plating with this orange circle in the middle, and of course here are the two seats that we talked about before. So this is the two turrets, which yes, you can push down on, studs will shoot out. In the case of this set, it is translate blue circular tiles, and in the other cockpit is where Pixal sits. And now that we're in car form, she is not upside down or backward, she is facing forward. Alright, and I guess now it's time to put things back together, but there is one more form to this build. This is something that was shown to me during my interview with the designers, but you can actually turn this entire section the opposite way if you want. So then if you put the rest of the mech back together, you can have it in like this half car, half mech form. And I love that option too, I think that's really cool. Another cool thing with this build is the designers tried to make sure it would still feel like a mech, even if not every part was attached. So for example, say I wanted to remove Zane. Then yeah, the chest would look a little bit thin, but then this is just a full Riyu mech. Removing him, I mean yeah, I guess it's a little bit thin now, but Pixal and Sora can still pilot it. And then if I add Zane back in, but without Riyu, it still feels like a big Zane mech. I think that's really neat, and it's something, again, that the previous combo mech I don't believe it did. In terms of posing, despite being so big, it is pretty darn stable. Here it is with a 3-point superhero landing, again, another thing that the designer showed to me. And like, I wouldn't have even thought to try this, because I would assume a mech like this couldn't do this, but no, there we go. Its legs are spread out, and it's on one hand, but it can balance just fine. Another thing that doesn't necessarily look the best, but does showcase its stability, it can bend forward like a full 90 degrees without toppling over. Like look, there it is from the side, neither of the arms are touching the ground, the only things on the ground are those two legs, but it's just built to be so stable that that is possible. Backwards it can't go a full 90 degrees because Ryu's wings get in the way, but this is what, like 70 degrees the other direction? And again, very stable, like that's not toppling over. Posing is definitely a little more limited than some other mechs of the scale because it is just so big and heavy, and also it doesn't have knees, which is definitely a limiting factor. But especially considering like what this mech is, I'm fairly happy with it. Like there has to be compromise somewhere, right? We can't have the car and the knees and everything else. The fact that this does hold its own weight so well while also looking really good while also being able to separate into the different vehicles, I'm overall fairly happy with it. You could get it in the walking pose like this, you could do something more dynamic like a superhero pose. I was going to try to make it sit down, but I realized that's basically just the car mode again. But I guess here's the car mode without the wheels in car mode, so it is just sitting down. So if you're looking for the most posable mech LEGO has ever released, this is definitely not it. But considering that this is a combiner mech and there is all those different things it can do, I'm pretty impressed that they were able to make it do this much. But wow, okay, I've talked a lot about this, I feel like I'm losing my voice, but we're not done with this review just yet, so now let's take a look at the minifigures that come in this set, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on everything at the end of this video. Here are the first two minifigures in the set. We have Cole in his all-new storm suit, and then Sora, I guess, technically also in her all-new storm suit. However, yeah, I guess we'll start with Sora, because immediately right off the bat, you could see she does not have a new ninja suit. The hood piece is new, and the hood piece is very cool, but the rest of the figure is exactly the same as her Season 1 figure. It's not even like her Tournament of Sources suit. No, it's her Season 1 suit again. And that is probably just the most disappointing part about this set for me, because that's just not good to see. I don't think the ninja necessarily need a new ninja suit every wave. Like, if all the ninja didn't have a new suit, I would be okay with that. But Sora is supposed to be one of the new main characters, and clearly they're trying to give her something with the new hood piece. If she's supposed to be a main character, they should treat her like a main character. She should get a new suit just like the rest of the ninja. And I think it's a real shame she doesn't have it, because yeah, this new hood doesn't really fit the torso the best. Like, it's okay, but her outfit is like her Street Racer outfit. It was never really meant to be a full ninja outfit. And that's kind of what made this Season 1 figure cool, was a ninja outfit combined with her original outfit, but then she finally got a proper ninja outfit with Tournament of Sources this past summer. But now somehow we're just going back in time and she's back to this outfit, which is a real shame because I do like this outfit, but it's time to move on, give her something new. If the rest of the ninja get something new, she should get it too. Feels very silly that she was left out. Anyway, the new hood piece at the very least is cool. I had very mixed opinions on this at first because I wasn't entirely sure how to feel. We could of course see it on both Cole and Sora here. And it's somewhat similar to like the mech suit hoods from last year, though it's a little more like armored. You can see there's some texture in the bottom part of the mask to maybe imply there's like a little bit of metal there. And then the top of the hood too has like this armored plating. I do think this might be my least favorite hood from Dragons Rising so far, but I just like that it's new, it's something to mix things up, it's different than what we've had previously. So I'm not against it, though in general I do prefer like the more basic ninja hoods like we got on the mech suits. I don't think it looks bad though, and comparing it to like the Master of the Mountain hood piece, I think this one's definitely better. It feels a lot more ninja-like this time around. Anyway, jumping back to Cole. Cole carries a prismatic blade as his accessory. Now the prismatic blades are the new collectibles of this wave. Apparently in the show there's 5 of them, but they're not like a new part or anything, they're just a new color for the standard katana piece. Now what color that is kind of hard to describe and also hard to capture on camera. It's sort of like this milky, sparkly white. And to you guys, this might look a little bit yellow because I have warm lighting in here and that sort of makes it look yellow. However, in other lighting it might look a little more purple or a little more blue, though of course white is the base color here. I think it's very, very cool to be getting this part in this color. That's a color that's been around for a little while now. Typically we only see it in like Lego Friends and Lego Dots back when that was a thing. So seeing it on a katana definitely makes it feel special. Now for the main collectible of a wave, obviously that would have been nice if it was an entirely new part and not just a recolor of something we've had for years. Definitely want to see what the prismatic blades are like in the show, but I don't know, I'm not like necessarily against this as a collectible. It's a collectible for the purposes of the plot, but in the sets it's just very easy to get. And it looks cool, so in my opinion, that's what matters most. Anyway, removing the katana, there's a full look at Cole's torso leg piece, and actually I'm going to remove Sora's too so you can see her a little bit better. And we have a very interesting design this time around. The ninja are incredibly armored, which I guess matches their new hood pieces. They have like this robe that drapes over this golden armor underneath, at least on Cole. And it looks like it's golden armor sort of like form-fitted to his chest, which is super cool. But then there's also like this high-tech gray gear on top with straps that comes down, and we can see that same color is also used for the armor on his legs. I love the use of orange as a secondary color. Cole's been using that for a little while now, but I think it always looks way good. And it's cool to see the orange mixed with the gray. I think they all fit together quite nicely. And then he even has like toe printing down here, which is once again metallic gold. His armor piece was the one introduced in the Tournament of Sources wave in 2024. However, in that wave, most of the ninja had it in gold. The only character to have it in black was Evil J. But now Evil J uses it in gold and the rest of the ninja use it in black, so they're still not matching. But especially on Cole, where he's got the all-black suit, the black armor looks very sleek. And yes, this armor piece is a scabbard, so you could fit 2 swords at the back, including the prismatic blade if you want. That's actually a pretty big benefit of having it be just the standard sword piece and not a new part. And you could fit a total of 2 in there if you want. Another thing, Sora just doesn't have armor here. Like, that's another part that could have just made the figure a little bit more interesting, but nope, it is just that Season 1 figure. Taking the armor and hood piece off, there's a full look at their face prints. It's just their Dragons Rising faces, nothing new there. And there's a look at the back torso prints and the alternate faces. Cole's of course got the dragon power eyes, Sora has the powered up eyes. And very interesting on the back of Cole's torso, look at that. That's clearly some sort of dragon symbol. I don't believe that's the Source Dragon symbol. I think it might be the Rising Dragon Technique symbol, or maybe it's something we haven't seen yet, but yeah, it's very clearly like meant to look like a dragon. And it's sort of split in half. One side's got these lines and the other side's more rocky, which matches Cole's element Earth, but it also matches the Source Dragon of Strength. Very curious. I wonder what that is. Like, what's the deal with that split? That's honestly super cool. I like that a lot. Anyway, fully like gold and gray on the back, no orange used here at all, which I think creates a nice discrepancy between the front and the back. They look like they fit together, but they're also each distinctly their own thing. And you can see those gray straps continue around here too. That's honestly super cool looking. Like, that makes me very curious about what that means for the show. And then yeah, Sora's got the little cat on the back torso print, because as I said, it is not new. Same one we've had since 2023. Oh, Cole is also technically exclusive to this set, at least as of right now. Now, we do know we're supposed to be getting a March wave that's going to be like 2 or 3 sets, and we don't know the minifigures in those sets yet, but last year's March wave gave us some new ninja suits, but also some of them were reused in the March wave. So while he's exclusive right now, there's a chance he's not exclusive in the future. We're just going to have to wait and see. This version of Sora, though, does at the very least come in the $10 spinner set. However, again, the only unique part about this figure is the hood piece. Here are the next 2 figures in the set, perhaps the 2 most exciting figures in the set. We have an all-new version of Pixal, and we have Nokt. So yes, Pixal is back in this set, which is so exciting to see, and she's got an entirely new look, which I think is absolutely awesome. She's still Samurai X, right? She's got the Samurai X logo in the center of her chest, but it seems like she's completely ditched the dark blue in favor of purple, which I think looks so nice. It's sort of a callback to her original minifigure from 2014, and obviously that's lived on in her face print. That stayed the same, at least in terms of design. Obviously she's had different expressions, but this is the first time her body has actually been purple since back then, and I think that was a great change to make. make. First off, it makes her more unique, because obviously we have another character who uses white and dark blue now, Sora. So Pixal now has her own distinct color scheme, but the purple with the white, and especially with like the little bit of red trim, it just all comes together so nicely. I absolutely love this version of her. It makes her feel more robotic too, because this looks like this just could be her robotic body. Her previous minifigures, because the colors were so different from her face, it looked like she was wearing armor on top of everything. But this seems more to me like they're embracing the fact that she is a robot, so this entire minifigure is actually her, and I just think that's the coolest thing. This minifigure looks so good. She uses Nia's hairpiece in metallic silver, which we did get for her in Ninjago core, but it's great to see that again. Metallic silver on the arms, red hands, all comes together super nicely. And then she also does have a brand new face print here. Now it's done in the exact same style as her core minifigure, so this is essentially another expression for her. You could very easily swap back and forth between that head and this one. But on one side of her face, she's got this very wide smile, which I think is good. I feel like it works for her. But then on her alternate face is very cool. She's got like a mask on. I'm not sure if that's going to be in the show or if that was just made up for the sets, but either way, it looks super cool. And I think that's a neat way to make sure she still has a samurai mask while also still including her hairpiece. Her armor is the Mr. E armor in gold. It works here. She's had that previously. Nothing too special, but I mean, it fits her. She uses the Ninjago movie Lloyd sword. And then the back torso print also is very cool. Again, embracing the whole fact that she is actually a robot. She has like these little exhausts or lights right here. You can see these fans in the back of her body, but they're glowing with this red light, almost sort of like a gaming PC. Right? You know how gaming PCs will have lights around their fans to like really illuminate them, make them look cool? That's kind of what I get from this torso, and I don't know if that was the intent, but if so, that's very funny. Also, one more thing I didn't point out, there's actually two different shades of purple that she uses. She uses lavender, but then she also uses regular purple. And I say that because regular purple is not on the back torso print, it's only on the front, so you can see the lavender here. But it's actually quite nice the way they mix those two colors. It adds a lot of detail while also making like each part of the body feel distinct. Yeah, Pixal is an awesome minifigure. So happy to get her again. So happy she's in this set. And I'm glad they took her design in a new direction. I think that was absolutely the right choice. And then here is Nokt, the master of brute force. This guy is so exciting to finally get because, of course, he was in Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 2 Part 2, but we didn't have a minifigure of him in those sets. So now I feel like my Tournament of Sources collection is a little bit more complete. And this minifigure looks pretty much exactly like it did in the show, which I'm very appreciative of. Lots of like very dark colors used on his torso and his legs, but then he has this little bit of metallic blue on the torso and the legs and on the feet. And metallic blue is probably one of my favorite LEGO printing colors because they don't use it a ton, but whenever they do, it just looks so nice. Especially on top of the black here, that like really pops. Back torso print 2 is also awesome. He's got like this number 5 right here, of course, for the Forbidden 5. Though it looks like a number 5, but it also sort of looks like a dragon, right? That's the tail and then wings and arms and head at the top. I'm sure it's meant to be both, but that's also very cool looking. Oh, and he has this brick-built sword as an accessory with a katana on the end. That's good. I like getting the Monkey Kid hilt piece in sand green. Nothing too crazy, though. He uses the Ninjago movie straw hat piece in black. He has a half mask on and the Legacy Skulkin armor. And if I take that half mask off, you can see he has a very angry face. More metallic blue is used here for his eyes, as well as his teeth, as well as the scar at the top. And then we have regular blue printing on top of the dark blue head to be like these stripes. And those actually continue around the back, because of course he has a straw hat on, so he can't have an alternate face. But despite not having an alternate face, he still does have back head printing. Not sure how I feel about the expression. It definitely makes him feel very evil, but I do feel like some of his personality is lost here that he has in the show. I wouldn't be shocked if there's some changes between Season 2 and Season 3, so I'm curious to see how he is in Season 3, but I don't know, he feels a little more bestial here while he feels a little more human in the show. However, expressions from the show to the sets have never been like one-to-one, so I think it's okay. The face looks very cool at the very least, just in a vacuum, and I'm just happy to get this character in general. Another point, he does not come with his cape piece that he has in the show. He's got like this really cool cloak in the show that just isn't here. That's a little bit of a shame to see, however, it shouldn't be too difficult to customize because lots of different sets come with cloth capes, and by not including a cape, they can include this armor piece instead and also like show off that back torso print, so I don't think that was like the worst change in the world, but yeah, the cloak definitely would have been cool to see here. All in all, though, I'm pretty happy with both of these minifigures. Pixal is basically perfect, like I do not know what I would do differently with her, and with Nokt, if I was the designer, I might have changed a few small things, but all in all, I'm happy with how he turned out. And finally, the last two minifigures in the set are two of the generic villains for this wave, the Dragonians. We have a Dragonian warrior and a Dragonian scout. These guys have very interesting designs, because they're sort of like dragon people, but not exactly. This one especially is very cool. So here's what's going on. They both have this all new armor piece, and it's got like this bottom dragon jaw, but then there's another new piece, this like upper head piece that attaches to the top. And this works really cool as just like a helmet. You can see it's got spots for dragon eyes, little teeth at the front, and then places to attach horns out the back. But until we see the show, I can't tell if that's meant to be a helmet or if it's meant to be the Dragonian's actual head or both. And you can see there's a full face print underneath the helmet, which we'll take a closer look at in a moment, but then there's also an alternate face on this figure. The alternate face is just like this burst of fire, so when you have the full head on, it looks like the dragon is breathing fire. Now that's really, really cool, but then where did that original dragon face go? I don't know. So I'm looking forward to seeing these guys in the show to see like what exactly is going on there, because is that the intent? Because I think that's what it's supposed to be, right? You turn the head around, that makes the Dragonian breathe fire, but that would mean that this is the head, not the head underneath. So maybe it's a case where some of the Dragonians look like this and some look like this, because this guy, obviously, he is wearing armor. I don't know, but either way, the whole like fire effect is quite cool. And then there is actually a second transformation. There's this little tiny dragon on the back, and when it's attached, it makes it look like the Dragonian like has wings so it can fly around. It gives it a tail at the back too, but this can also be removed very easily. You can see it attaches to the armor on these studs. There's room for the head at the top. But if you want to remove it, there's how it looks on its own. It's like this little tiny dragon, these wings are all new parts that attach on clips. It's got 2 studs on each side and anti-studs underneath. I think it's a very cool looking new part, and it's also quite fun for play, because it like doubles the amount of villains you have. Because you can just have them attached to the back and then take them off when you're ready. The new armor piece is also really good, even separate from that like new helmet piece. I absolutely adore the texture on it, especially on the shoulder pads. Those spikes look amazing. Torso and legs is exactly the same on these two, despite technically being different minifigures. Really nice design though. I love all the metallic silver for the armor, and it's got like these scratch marks on it too to make it look like they've actually been damaged in battle. Especially when you like reflect it in the light, that looks incredible. But then there's also like printed scales in the bottom of the legs and like this little claws for the feet. And the mohawk on this guy is not nearly as strong as the helmet on this guy, but hey, it's cool that there's more than one option. Oh, in terms of accessories, this one comes with like one of the classic castle like big sword pieces, and the scout has like a brick-built battle axe. Removing the armor, there's a better look at the face prints as well as the full torso prints. They do actually have different faces between them. You know, I've been talking about this stuff as if it's scales, and I think it's probably meant to be scales, because, you know, they're dragons, but on this guy it almost looks a little bit more like fur, so I'm not sure which of the two it is. Anyway, they both have like these very sharp teeth and fangs. This guy's got a little more tan on his like lower jaw, while this guy has it on his eyebrows and like around his mouth. And then there's no proper alternate face on this guy, it's just more of those scales or fur or whatever you want to call that. But on this one, of course, it's that fire print as we talked about before. There's the back torso prints as well, again, more of that like damaged silver armor. I like these guys overall. I don't think they're my favorite like just generic villains we've had recently, but they feel very new, they feel very fresh, they don't feel like anything we've gotten before. I think from a play perspective especially, there's a lot to do with these minifigures, and in terms of looks, they're solid, I like them. And so, overall, what are my thoughts on this set? I mean, I love it. I think this might be one of the best Ninjago sets of all time, and honestly one of the most impressive LEGO sets of all time in general. Because again, I think back to that original combo mech from 2022, which, don't get me wrong, is a set that I love. I think that set is really, really cool. But I feel like a big theme of that set was compromise, right? Certain things in that set weren't perfect to make sure the play features worked, and I just feel like with this set, that's not really the case at all. Because I mean, think about it, what are the compromises here? Okay, it doesn't have knees, I don't really expect that from a mech like this. The back of the mech isn't entirely covered up, like, okay, that's not the end of the world. Aside from that though, it's pretty much perfect at what it's aiming to do. The build looks amazing when everything is combined, and each of the individual builds are pretty darn good on their own. I do think Riyu could be a little bit stronger if he didn't combine with the mech, but that's the thing, is he does combine with the mech. So I think it's impressive how strong he is even considering that. I think Pixal's car is fantastic, Zane is really cool, and Sora's jet is also pretty solid. Minifigure selection too is pretty good. For $100, maybe 1 or 2 more minifigures would be nice. Though also you gotta keep in mind Zane comes in the set, he's just not technically a minifigure, so you do get 7 characters in the set, not 6. Amazing to get the exclusive Nokt minifigure, amazing to get the exclusive Cole minifigure, and the exclusive Pixal minifigure, all of which are incredibly detailed, amazing new minifigures for this wave. I would have liked if Sora had a new suit, but when that's like my biggest criticism of this set, it must be pretty good. But no, in all honesty, this is one of the most technically impressive LEGO models I have ever seen. I cannot believe it manages to look so good while also standing like so stable, that you're able to pose it and you're also able to separate all the different parts of it. Genuinely, as I was building this and filming the review, I was really hit with the thought of like, wow, people who don't collect Ninjago are missing out, because this is unlike anything else from LEGO. Yeah, if you can't tell, I love this one, so would I recommend it? Yes, absolutely. I haven't really talked about price yet, and 100 seems about right for me. 1,200 pieces, 6 minifigures, and a pretty darn big mech. Yeah, that feels right. Very, very good set, all things considered. I'm incredibly happy with it. But of course, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of this set in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to my channel if you're new. And let me know in the comments which 2025 Ninjago set you want to see me do an early review of next. But as for this video, I think that's about all I have to say, so thanks for watching everybody. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thanks for watching everybody, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!